Hello everybody and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn and in this video we have some more writing feedback. This time we have a writing task 1. Most people who send me their writing, about 90% send me their writing tasks 2, but this time we have a writing task 1. So let's take a look at it. So a little bit different. Okay, so as always with writing task 1, we really want to make sure that we understand the information that we're given. Usually it's a graph or a chart. Sometimes we know it can be a process. But let's take a look. So the chart below shows the number of households in the US by their annual income in 2007, 2011 and 2015. And the second part always stays the same. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So is it relevant to make comparisons here? Yeah, because we have 2007, 2011 and 2015. So certainly we can make comparisons between the years. We can also make comparisons between these 5 different things. So what are these 5 different things or these 5 different groups? Well, those are groups. They're grouped by how much money they have every year, their annual income. So you have the first one less than $25,000 per year, second one between 25 and 50, 50 and 75, 75 and 100, 100 or more. So certainly comparisons can be made here and should be made. Okay, so just taking a look again, the chart below shows the number of households in the US. So what is a household? Potentially problematic, right? So household, you could think of it like a family, right? A mother, a father, 2 children. That's one household, a group of people who live together. But not all households have to be families. It could just be, I don't know, 3 friends living together in one home. That's a household. So households describe the group of people living together. And what this shows here is if it's $25,000 less than $25,000 per year, for example, that's how much everyone combined in that home, that's their income for the year when you add everything up. So if it's just the mum who works and the dad who doesn't work and she makes $25,000, great. And the kids obviously don't work. Maybe they get a little bit of money from the government to help support their children. Let's say that's $5,000 per year. The mum earns $25,000 per year. The government gives them $5,000 per year to help look after their children. The dad doesn't work. He stays at home and looks after the kids. Then their total income is $30,000 per year as a household. So that's important to understand. And of course, it's per year. Great. So when we have a writing task 1 like this, again, there are a couple of ways of approaching this. Now, my preferred approach at the moment is a 4-paragraph approach. So the first paragraph, we just want to say what the graph shows. Now, you have a similar line here. The chart below shows the number of households. So you kind of want to paraphrase this. But I notice in their opening line, the chart below shows the number of households, blah, blah, blah. They don't mention that it's grouped by income into 5 different groups. So maybe that's something I would write in my introduction here too, just to say that, the households are broken into 5 different groups, depending on how much their income is. So that's paragraph 1. Paragraph 2, we want an overview of the key features. So we want to select 2 key features, 2 main features. So just looking at this graph here, some of the features, one feature that I would notice perhaps is that the number of households earning $100,000 or more, that was the largest group in 2007. And it was the largest group in 2015. So for me, that's a key takeaway. That's a key feature of this graph. Maybe it's also a key feature that it rose, but it started there and then it fell a little bit and then it rose. But for me, it's a key feature that's number 1, right? It was number 1 in 2007, number 1 in 2015. So that's a key feature. The other key feature, maybe I'd focus on those two here. So the 50 to 75,000 or the 75 to 100,000, because those didn't really change much at all, did they? 2007, 2011, 2015, that pretty much remained stable. So those are maybe two key features. So in paragraph 2, I want to just explain in general terms what those key features are. And then in paragraph 3, I will give details, specific details, statistical details, numerical percentages, details about key feature 1. And in paragraph 4, I will give specific details, statistical details, numerical details about key feature number 2. So that's how I would structure it. It is the best structure for sure. Of course, we should write at least 150 words. Fine. But let's see what our candidate does. The chart illustrates good. Fine. We have a nice synonym there. Illustrates the number of properties owned. Oh, no. Good grammar, properties owned, reduced relative clause. But this isn't about properties owned. Let me just read that question to make sure I'm not misunderstanding. The chart below shows the number of households in the US by their annual income. There's nothing about owning property here. Number of households, yeah, so 10 million households, 15 million households, but it's not about house ownership. You can rent a house and you are still a household. So that's a problem. That's a huge problem. Okay, in the US, grouped by the citizens' salaries. Well, it's not necessarily salaries, right? Salary is usually people's primary source of income, but it is not the only source of income. People might have another property that they rent out to other people, so they might get passive income from this. People might have investments where they make money. People might get money from the government. People might get donations from families or something like this. So salaries are not the only source of income. So we can't say that this chart only talks about salaries, because that isn't true. In 3 periods, 2007, 2011, 2015. Okay, so they gave specific information about the years. Cool. They mentioned that they were grouped, but not. The candidate says that they were grouped by salaries. That's not true. They were grouped by their income. But, it's kind of in the right place. But the biggest problem here is the number of properties owned. That isn't what this graph shows. This graph tells us nothing about properties owned. Okay. So let's see if we get a general overview. Overall, it is likely that people who earn $100,000, we need to mention that it's dollars. I know it's pedantic. I know you might say, oh, but it's obvious. You need to mention that it's dollars. We do have dollars. Sorry, we have dollars here. Sorry. Let me take that out. Sorry. Always a good thing for examiners to read. Overall, it is likely that people who earn $100,000 or more dollars annually owned the majority of houses. No, this isn't about ownership. Oh, no. Sorry, it happens. Sometimes it's very unfortunate. I blame the IELTS people for making this question, because if you don't know the word households, then it's possible that you will not be able to get a good mark at all. It's unfortunate. So it's not about owning the majority of houses. While those who earn between 75 and 100 owned dollars owned the least proportion. Again, it's not about owning. You can't own a household. You can own a home, but you can't own a household. So yeah, the figures went through some changes in the past 8 years, except for the number of households of those income between. Except for the number of households of those income between 50,000 and 75,000, which again dollars. Just use the dollar sign or use USD, which remained the same. Okay, I kind of understand what they mean, right? Everything else changed except 50 to 75, which stayed the same. But is that true? So this candidate is saying that the figures went through some changes, so all of them, except 50 to 75. So let's check 50 to 75 first of all. 50 to 75, that's the third one. No change, no change, no change. Agree. But have a look at also 75 to 100. There's really minimal change there. So I don't think it's fair to say that they all went through some changes except that one group. Because for me, saying that something went from 14.5 to 14 to 15, to me that's not really going through changes. That's remaining stable. So that part, grammatically, it's a little bit strange, and also in terms of the analysis of the features, it's not accurate here, because there were two groups that didn't really change much. And even, is there a third group? No, everything else changed. The second one didn't change massively, but there are some changes. Okay, moving on. Figures from those incomes below $49.19. We need to mention that it's dollars. Followed the same trend. The same as what? The same as each other, perhaps. Figures from those incomes below 50,000. So below 50,000, that should give us two groups, right? Less than 25 and 25 to 50. They followed the same trend. Did they follow the same trend? First two groups. Yeah, I guess they did follow the same trend, didn't they? Which went through about, went through about 4 million increase. Yeah, it's just sloppy language. It went through about 4 million increase. I don't know what that means. I kind of have an idea. Then slightly fell back. So I like this use of fell back. That's fine. It's not perhaps very academic, but it is idiomatic in nature, and it is suitable. It's the meaning is suitable. Then slightly fell back. Did they fall back? There. They did slightly fall back. Okay, so that's good analysis, but this is extra. This is information here, detailed information, and it works, but it's not connected to your overview. And so you don't mention anything about this group in your overview. So we want some mention of this here, some simple explanation, and then this paragraph should give us the detailed information. So, okay. The number of properties of those who obtain... Okay. The number of properties of those who obtain... The number of properties of those. So people own properties, and those people obtain... I don't know. Yeah, maybe obtain 75,000 is okay, but dollars... but it's not about properties, it's about households, and households and properties aren't the same thing. Faced a small decline, a small decrease, but not declination in 2011. Let's have a look if that's true. Obtained 75,000 per year. So what is 75,000 per year? Is that... Which group are you talking about? 75 to 100 or 50 to 75? So you need to make that clear, because you just say 75,000 who obtain maybe at least, or who obtain more than $75,000 per year. Maybe that would be more precise, but there isn't a group that earns $75,000 per year. There's a group that earns 50 to 74,999, and there's a group that earns 75 to 99. 999, but there isn't a group that earns $75,000 per year faced a small declination. Okay, in 2011. However, okay, good bit of cohesion there. Cool. The increase of the two groups. Which two groups? Is he talking about the two groups that earn 75 or plus? Okay, so he's talking about those two groups there. The increase of the two groups differed. Cool. Are you going to give us information about this? I like this verb differed. That's very nice. But are you going to give specific details about how they differed? Which one grew more? And from what number to what number? We need that specific information in paragraph 4. Saying they differed is fine for paragraph 2 when you give your overview. But in paragraphs 3 and 4, we want key details. We want to dig deep. Okay. While the figure... So, good subordination here. While the figure of those who earned the most significantly increased... Okay, we do get some follow-up to this differed. While the figure of those who earned the most significantly increased, the other group's growth in the number was not as outstanding. Is it true? That one grew, boom. That one grew, boom. There wasn't really any growth for that third one, no? I don't really know if you can say, what is this, about 14.5 million households, 14 million households, 15 million households. For me, that's remained stable. That's not growth. If it is growth, it's the slightest of growth. So I feel like that key feature isn't really isn't analysed with precision here. Okay, let's get to some marks. So task achievement. Unfortunately, I think I'm between the 3 and the 4 here, and it's not really the only thing that the candidate has done wrong is that they've misunderstood the word households. But now the candidate is talking about the amount of money, the amount of properties that people own. And that makes the central theme of the whole text irrelevant. And that's why I have to drop it to a 3. Yeah, sorry about that. Coherence and cohesion. So there are some cohesive features. There is a 4-paragraph structure. There's an attempt at like what the chart shows, an attempt somehow of an overview, then the last 2 paragraphs going into some detail. So there is a logical progression between the paragraphs. Generally, it's okay to understand, but I feel I had to do a lot of referring back to the chart to try to understand what the candidate was saying, especially went through about 4 million increase. I don't like that in terms of coherence. The increase of the 2 groups differed. I want the candidate to explain to me in simple terms. So there were 2 groups earning more than $75,000, one with a range of 75,000 to 99, and one with 100,000 more. So I want more explanation. I don't want to look at the candidate's writing and think, that's probably what they mean. They mean this. I don't want to use my inference. I don't want to use my logical reasoning to try to understand what the candidate is saying. I want the candidate to give me all of that information. So a bit of a gap with the coherence. But I think there is enough for a 6 there. Lexical resource. There was good lexical resource there, I think. Okay, we have properties isn't what should be used here. Illustrates is a good synonym. The majority of, that's very natural. The least proportion of is strange. It should be the lowest proportion of households, but okay, except for the number of households, good. I don't like those income. Followed the same trend. To follow a trend shows good awareness of style and collocation. Cool. Then slightly fell back. So this shows idiomatic language, cool. So obtain is decent. So yeah, I think there is enough for a 7 for lexical resource. C1 lexical resource, bravo. Grammatical range and accuracy. We get subordination here while the figure the other group's growth good. So that's a complex sentence. Sequenced sentence here. It did this and then did this. Cool. Grouped by a little participle there, so that's a good structure. Grammatically, it's okay. There was like those income, which sounds strange. The income is a singular noun. Those is usually used with plural nouns, so that's a grammatical mistake. But there really aren't many grammatical mistakes there. Yeah, so grammatical accuracy is good, and there's a decent range. We do have a good range of sentences and a nice, not mind-blowing, but a nice range of structures. So grammatical range and accuracy also 7. So the candidate might look at this and might be depressed, right? They might think, oh, wow, this is so terrible because we have 6 plus 3 is 9, plus 14 plus 7 is 16, plus 7 is 23, right? 14, 20, 23. Yeah, so that will give us a score. Sorry, I have to do awful things here. My brain and its mathematics now is so bad. I need to calculate the score because that 3 is in there. It's going to pull this score down a lot. So 23 divided by 40, sorry about that, is 5.75. So overall is 5.75. Now there is some confusion about what happens with the 0.75, 0.25. I've been rounding up recently. In IELTS they will round down to 5.5 for this, but I'm just going to give the scores 5.75 here. In the real IELTS, it will be 5.5, but then it also kind of depends on your writing task too as well. It's a huge problem. Anyway, let's just call it 5.75 overall. So the candidate might look at this, right, and might be depressed. And certainly if they took IELTS and that they didn't get the breakdown, they might just think, oh, 5.75, it's terrible. It means I'm like the lower end, 5.5, I'm the lower end of upper intermediate. Yeah, but your grammatical range and accuracy makes you C1. Your lexical resource makes you C1. Your coherence and cohesion makes you B2, but good B2. It's just the task achievement. So of course, the only thing, the critical thing, I won't give you any other advice. The critical thing is you have to make sure that you understand it. Sometimes we write about the wrong things because we are inattentive. We don't pay attention to the question, or we think we understand and we don't double check. So if that happens to you, then, that's a big pity. You have to make sure that you reread and try to understand as best as possible. Now, in other cases, and I think this is what's happened to the candidate has seen the word households. Maybe the candidate hasn't understood it and guessed and just tried to write about something. And that's okay. Sometimes we have to do that, right? There are lots of examiners or maybe lots of teachers who tell you, no, you have to make sure that you understand. Sometimes it's impossible. Sometimes the questions are written in a way where there's a critical word like households, and if we misunderstand it or if we misinterpret it, it will affect all of our writing. It's a pity, it's horrible, it's a nightmare, it's a disaster, but that's life. So as candidates, sometimes we can control it by, rereading, really carefully thinking about it, making sure that we are not taking risks, that we're not inattentive. But sometimes there's a critical word that we don't understand, and unfortunately that's happened to this candidate, and that's why their task achievement is down there. So if I assessed this candidate as their English level. I would say the candidate's English level is probably between B2 and C1, but on the IELTS scale, it shows that it's the low end of B2, even though in reality, the candidate is between B2 and C1. So yeah, hopefully that was useful for you. Maybe I'll do a couple of let's write tasks myself with writing task 1, because I haven't done so many of them, and it might give you some ideas about how to write task 1 in a simple way. But I hope that was useful. A few more people have sent me writing, so there probably will be some more writing checks on this channel soon, but also a lot of requests for speaking tests coming up, so you will get to see a lot more speaking. If you want a practice speaking test, or if you want me to check your writing, I might have some time. I haven't said no to anybody yet. Information is given below. How to contact me the information is given below. Don't be shy, get in touch. And if you find these videos useful, the best way that you can support me is simply pressing like, sharing the video, leaving a comment, even if the comment is just a thumbs up or just a great or just a I disagree or whatever it is. You can really, really help this channel by adding a like, adding a comment, sharing the video. But that's all from me. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye bye.